All right. Thank you everyone for joining and tuning in for this third presentation of the day. The client of this third presentation is the International Olympic Committee, and more specifically the Olympic Museum in the lead up to Paris 2024, looking at their next exhibition. And we have a group of 5 members, 3 with us here and 2 online. I leave the floor to you and to introduce yourselves to our audience and the jury of this morning. Welcome.
Well, first of all, hello everyone. Thanks for joining us today. We really appreciate your presence, and also thanks to those watching us online today. We are here today to talk about Paris Olympic, the City of Light through 3 Olympic Games. I would like to start with a quote from Tony Stenga, 3 times Olympic champion, president of Paris 2024. We need to bring sport across the planet and everywhere. Now let's quickly introduce our team. I'm Samin from Iran, working in volleyball. Andrew is joining us online. He's from London, working in football. Anna is here today with me. She's from Russia, working in aquatic. Vadim is from Ukraine, working in kickboxing. And Paul is online too. He's from France and working in volleyball. Before we start, let's watch this quick video about our project.
Hello everybody, it's a great pleasure for us to be in Paris 2024 office, because now we're preparing an exposition for Olympic Museum dedicated to the Olympic Games. So we're here to feel the vibes of the Games and to do it better.
Here we have 6 objectives that were set for us by the Olympic Museum, and my colleague Andrew will start with the first one.
Okay, thanks very much, Anna. Starting with objective 1, how have Paris's past and present history informed the planning and programmation of the 2024 Games? As some of you might already be aware, this will in fact be Paris's 3rd time hosting the Olympic Games, the first being in 1900. It was the 2nd Olympic Games of the modern era, following Athens in 1896, and it crowned the first ever female Olympic champion, which was Charlotte Cooper from Great Britain in tennis. So already more than 100 years ago, you had this theme of gender equality. Interestingly, there was no opening ceremony in 1900, and the Games was in fact overshadowed by the Universal Exhibition, which was taking place at the same time in Paris. There was limited media coverage, and according to the French historian Thierry Thierry, the Games, were almost like overshadowed by the Universal Exhibition. So moving on to Paris 1924. This is a significant change, or a watershed moment, because here the Olympic Games became a major international sporting event. We had the concept of mass appeal for the first time. There were 500,000 spectators, and as you can see, 1,000 journalists covered the Games. There were also 44 national Olympic committees present in 1924. And for the very first time in history, we had a closing ceremony with the raising of the 3 flags, being the flag of the IOC, of the host nation, and the upcoming host nation. Interestingly, in 1924, the Games became a bit more politicized. Similar to the political backdrop in 2024, Germany was not invited to the Games as a result of its actions during World War II. We also had purpose-built infrastructure in 1924, such as the Piscine de Tourelle, which still exists today, and I think is going to be used as a training site in 2024.
Now we're coming to this edition of the Games, the third one. And I want to start with the motto of the Games, Games Wide Open. And it is exactly what Paris 2024 is trying to do, to make these games as accessible, as inclusive as possible by bringing it to people, starting with opening ceremony, going back to virtual marathon that is open to everybody, and other initiatives that you will see further. What is also spectacular? It's gender equity. We have 50% men and women athlete participations. Moreover, Paris is boosting local economy by creating a lot of jobs. They have created more than 150,000 jobs for people. And also, Paris is investing a lot of money in social. They're doing more than they are doing a lot of social projects for people with disabilities, people with special needs, for people from unfavorable districts, boosting economy by more than 38 million euros.
Okay, now let's talk about our second objective. How will Paris respond to greatest concern of our time, such as inclusion, gender equality, and sustainability? Gender equality, Gender equality is the greatest theme of Paris 2024. For the first time in Olympic history, we have 50% male and female participation. To show you how far we came from, Pierre de Coubertin, the founder of Olympic, once said, the Olympiad with female would be impractical, uninteresting, unaesthetic, improper, and their role should be above all crowns the victors. And also to give you additional fact about Paris, the number of women sport events will scheduled for the primary increase, which cause more visibility. And it's also interesting to know that Paris invested 1 million euro to transfer French school playgrounds to more exclusive sport places. And also to closing coaching gap, the IOC had like 4-year program to develop female coaches, and Olympic Solidarity Committee invested $1 million for this program. And moving on inclusion, for the first time again in history, Olympic refugee team competed in Rio 2016 with 10 athletes. And currently we have 69 athletes having a scholarship from Olympic Solidarity. And again, for the first time, we anticipate that certain athletes like Kimia Alizadeh, taekwondo player from Iran, would have a chance for win a medal for refugee team. The other interesting point is that Paris partnered with Tech Fuji company to hold a hackathon before Olympic Games, and this company supporting refugees worldwide by using technology. And the CEO of this company said that Paris Olympic and Paralympic bid has inclusion, diversity, and acceptance in its very heart.
Sustainability is very important for the Games, and it's also one of the legacy plans. We have a big ambitious goal, 50% reduction of carbon emissions compared with the previous editions of the Games. And here we compare mostly with London because it's closer to Paris. Another big number is 95%. 95% is existing infrastructure. So it's only few buildings that are created for the Games. Moreover, these created buildings are also low carbon. For example, the Aquatic Center in Saint-Denis, where even the stands are made from the recycled materials. Paris 2024 tries to reduce the consumption of water, energy, use renewable resources, try not to use single-use plastic. Every department of Paris 2024 has its own carbon budget. It goes even for food and beverage, where people are trying to use local products, seasonal products, try to go to vegetarian options. And it's not only the local committee, but also the partners of the Olympic Games are contributing to this movement. For example, with the Coca-Cola company that are proposing zero waste option for these games by installing water fountains instead of using water bottles.
And another big concern of our time is participation of Russian and Belarusian athletes. However, the National Olympic Committee of these countries are not invited by the IOC, and there is a still debate if these athletes can participate until neutral flag or no, and if yes, their safety during the game is still a big concern. IOC also dedicated $7 million to support 3,300 Ukrainian athletes. And in this regard, Macron, president of France, said that sport shouldn't be politicized.
Thank you, Samin. Now moving on the third objective, so the unique aspect of Paris Games. So probably the most exciting one, the opening ceremony. So as Tony Estanguet said, this opening ceremony must be the symbol of this ambition for different games, creative games, spectacular games, and popular games. So for the first time, the ceremony will be held outside the stadium. The 206 delegation will parade on boats traveling down the Seine, passing through iconic places of Paris, like Place de la Concorde or l'Esplanade des Invalides. 600,000 spectators are expected to attend, which is nearly 8 times the number of people that could fit in the Stade de France, and it will be free of charge. It will be an unforgettable moment. Sorry, Samin, the other one, please. It will be an unforgettable moment for the athletes and the public, and the perfect way to start the games. Next, please. The games will be brought to the city of Paris. Paris 2024 built temporary infrastructures at some iconic places of Paris towards disciplines. So like we have the beach volley near the Eiffel Tower, skateboarding at Place de la Concorde, or fencing at Le Grand Palais. Only 3 infrastructures have been built for the purpose of the games. And out of the 45 disciplines, 30 will be held in a 10K radius around the Olympic Village. The Olympic atmosphere will be spread everywhere in the city. The mass event concept. So it will be introduced at Paris Games with the Marathon pour tous, a race open to the people on the same course as the men and the women marathon. And it will happen between those two as a night race. And there will also be a virtual Marathon pour tous, allowing recreational runners to participate from anywhere in the world, as well as a 10K race to make it more inclusive. Next slide, Samin, please. And for the first time in the history of the Games, breaking will be introduced to the Olympic program. An introduction to more urban sports, which according to François Gautret, curator of the hip hop exhibition, is the perfect fusion between sports, art, and culture. Breaking brings people together from different social backgrounds, and in Paris, it will no longer be associated to the street. Breaking will be a focal point of the Games, taking place at the center of La Place de la Concorde. And according to Lilou, a French breaking legend, they are finally going to show the general public that it's not a subculture. There are artists, athletes who train and work with the biggest brand. Next slide, Samin, please. So moving on the IOC's plans. So one of them is to modernize the Olympic Games, securing its long-term future, and the additional sports that we will have in Paris, surfing, sport climbing, skateboarding, and breaking, are contributing to it by appealing to a younger audience. For example, during Tokyo Olympics, the average age of the women's skateboarding podium was 14 years old. Next one, Samin, please. Thank you. On the fan engagement note, Paris Games will try to follow Beijing footsteps and surpass them. This last edition reached a global broadcast of over 2 billion people, and 57% of the 13 to 19 years old wished for more Olympic Games coverage after the Games. And regarding the engagement at the Games, the fans will have access to an interactive map showing everything that is taking place in Paris during the game, and the opportunity to meet the medalists at the venue right in front of the Eiffel Tower. And to conclude on the unique aspects of Paris Games, the women marathon. So in 1896, during the first Games in Athens, a woman tried to take part to the men's marathon and was rejected. And nearly 100 years later, after years of fighting, women finally had their marathon at Los Angeles Games, and it was won by the American Joanne Benoit. And for Paris Games, 40 years after the first marathon, the women marathon will be held after the men on the Sunday to close the Games. Now moving on to Andrew, and he's going to talk about Objective 4.
Okay, thanks, Paul. So moving on to Objective 4, how will Paris 2024 reach out beyond the Olympic community and engage and interact with new and diverse communities across the city, which forms part of the IOC's Agenda 2020+5 Recommendation 12. Okay, so arguably the biggest success for Paris 24 in terms of reaching out to new and diverse communities is the transformation of Seine-Saint-Denis. Similar to London 2012, where we saw the transformation of East London, Paris 2024 is taking the Olympics as an opportunity to develop a very poor and underprivileged area that's located in the outskirts of Paris. Here we have an interesting quote from Stéphane Troussel, the socialist president of Seine-Saint-Denis. He said, "We feel the enthusiasm and growing interest of Seine-Saint-Denis." So in contrast with other parts of Paris that might be more focused on the Rugby World Cup right now, already. If you walk around Saint-Denis, which our group did in May, you can already feel the Olympic spirit and see visible signs of the Olympic development, such as the aquatic center and the building of the Olympic and Paralympic villages. Also in 2022, we had 59 cultural and sporting events take place in Saint-Denis with 8,000 local participants. According to an independent survey, 82% of the local residents are in favor of hosting the Olympics. And again, another important fact is that 2,800 family apartments will replace the Olympic and Paralympic village after the Games. That's, of course, linked to legacy. Another important aspect of reaching out beyond the Olympic community is, of course, the Marathon pour tous, which Paul already touched on. It's an amateur event taking place between the professional women's and men's competition, 20,024 participants, 50-50 equal representation. And according to the French Olympic swimmer Camille Lacourte, it's about sharing a unique atmosphere with runners from around the world in an incredible setting just a few hours before the Olympic Games closing ceremony. And this is all linked to the general push to improve physical activity levels in France. And we've got the Go for 30 campaign, which is a corporate campaign designed to get employees exercising at least 30 minutes a day. Another important aspect of reaching out to new and diverse communities is, of course, the Paralympic Games. You can't deny the importance of the Paralympic movement because I guess 1.2 billion people are living with a disability worldwide, according to the OCHR. For Paris 2024, we're going to have 42.5% female participation, so not quite at 50% level, but it's a pretty impressive representation given that the Paralympic Games is a much younger movement. There'll be 300 hours of Paralympic sport broadcast during the Paralympic Games. So it's really being brought to the forefront of the Olympic movement. And according to Craig Spence from the International Paralympic Committee, it's the world's most transformational event in terms of changing social attitudes towards people living with a disability. And again, there's legacy aspects as well, because generally throughout the city of Paris, there'll be accessibility improvements both on the Paris Metro and in local sports clubs. And then finally, the Cultural Olympiad. This is about bringing culture, art, history, literature to the Olympics. Pierre de Coubertin famously said that the Olympics is about muscles and minds. So it's not just about pure sport. And here we also have an interesting quote. I'll try it in French. It says, "Les lettres et les arts harmonieusement combinés avec le sport assurent la grandeur des Jeux olympiques," which translates to mean that literature and art harmoniously combine with sport to make sure that the Olympics are special. So culture and art is a really important aspect. It's about reaching out to other people that might not be solely focused on sport. And according to Tony Estanguet, the Cultural Olympiad is an opportunity to celebrate shared values, meanings, and diversity that sport and culture have in common. And then on the left-hand side, we've got some examples of the Cultural Olympiad. And bottom left-hand corner, you've got the tapestry of the Franco-Iranian artist Marjane Satrapi, which will feature prominently in the Paris Games.
Moving to legacy plans. And here we already spoke about sustainability and about Saint-Denis, and I will cover other legacy plans because, of course, the Olympic Games, it's not only sports, it's about positive impact that the Games bring to the host city before, during, and after the Games. I will start with making Paris more accessible. Andrew covered it a bit, and I want to add also there's a big infrastructural project that was created. It is called the Prism, and it's a big training center for people with disabilities where they will be able to practice mixed martial arts, climbing, basketball, and other sports. And according to Craig Spencer from the Olympic Committee, there will be more than 125 million euros invested in Paris in coming 3 years to make it more acceptable. And it's already a big legacy plan. Moreover, as Olympic Games, in any case, it's also about sports. So France is using this opportunity to increase the physical activity of their nation. Unfortunately, for the moment, according to the researchers, the situation is not the best. Around 47% of women are not physically active enough. For men, it's a bit better, but also the figures are not the best. So that's why a big project, Sport 2024 Plus, was launched with different physical activities for children, for students, with 30 minutes trainings for everybody, with improving the playgrounds by installing climbing walls, marking hopscotch to play, because like play is also a sport, and other activities. Moreover, there is also, There's also a big opportunity to increase the patriotism of the French nation, to make them feel the pride of being French, to unite them, and not to unite them for something like more controversial, because we know that the French, they can unite for manifestations, and there were different social tensions going on because of retirement reform, also killing a teenager by a policeman. But now people can really unite by different volunteering opportunities that Paris 2024, such as also by torch relay and other projects. So people can really feel that they contribute to a big project, and it will raise their patriotism. Going on, the last objective was to show how Paris and France is using the games to create their new image. And here I will stop on 3 points. First, France is a big host for international sports events, World Rugby, Euro, and now Olympic and Paralympic Games. Second, it's an opportunity to show the city from the different points. It's a vibrant culture, it's a modern city, it's sustainable and digital. And the third, it's a really significant political nation.
So after having spent 6 months working with the Olympic Museum, the key lesson for our professional careers is this: the importance of being able to adapt and evolve in this fast-changing world, was also holding on to key traditions and values. Before leaving today, we want you to take away 3 key aspects of Paris 2024. 1, the motto, games wide open. 2, the sport and politics are inextricably linked. And 3, sustainability and gender equality. Thank you. So
Thank you,
everyone.
Thank you.
All right, I now turn to the jury and our clients, your client for this project, to open the floor for questions. Starting with,
We can start? Sure.
with Megan and Pierre again.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Andrew and Paul, just to let you know, I brought my colleague Pierre Adrien along with me today. I'm not sure if you can see him. He works in our communications department, and he was a graduate of this program. So we thought it would be great if he could be here today, hear this, and ask some of his questions from a neutral point of view, from not being involved in the project. But first, I want to say thank you. It's been an absolute pleasure working with you all since January, and it's been really great to see the work and effort that you put into this. So a big thank you. My first question is quite general, just to ease us into the question period. And it's, throughout this process, what were the biggest challenges you faced? Because I know we asked you to really look for information that wasn't publicly available. And I acknowledge that that is a bit of a challenge. So what were the biggest challenges you faced throughout this? And if you had to do it again, how would you respond to those challenges, perhaps in a different way?
Okay, I will start, and colleagues online, please reach out to us if you want to speak. So for me personally, and I think my team members will support me here, it was difficult because we didn't want to look in the public resources, because everybody can do it. We can all search on the internet, we can also look at the books. So for us, a big challenge was to speak with people who are involved in Paris, from IOC, from a local organizing committee, the athletes, to have the information that is unique and that nobody can find, but it will take some time. So I think it was the biggest challenge, to make the list of people, to search for their contacts, to reach out to them, to convince them sometime to speak with us. So probably it was the biggest endeavor that we faced. What will we do different? Maybe make a bigger list, because it was quite wide, but in any case, the more people you can reach, the more information you have.
Do you think you would have interviewed more people in Paris or working for the Paris OCOG? Because right now is primarily over 50% was IOC colleagues, but is that a missed opportunity perhaps?
I think, it's a opportunity how to improve in general the project is to speak with more people from OCOC and maybe also from people who are not in the games, because in any case, the people who are involved like very directly, they have their own point of view, but people who are more from other sides, they can give other information. So that's why, for example, we reached to Office de Paris, because they work together, but in any case, it's different angle.
Yeah. I agree with Anna. I think if we look at the trajectory in terms of how he went about the interview process, the immediate knee-jerk reaction was to like speak to really senior people at the IOC or people like in senior positions in French politics. And we found there was two problems to that. One, it's very hard to access those people. And then two, they really just toe the party lines. They don't give you like official responses that you can already find in publicly available information. So it wasn't really in keeping with the objectives of the project. And then as Anna just explained, like some of the more interesting feedback we got was from people that were like locally on the ground in Paris. So yeah, of course we would have loved to have spent more time in Paris and carried out like sort of field research there. But yeah, for sure, the most interesting responses were from people in the local community or local break dancers or people from the local communities of Seine-Saint-Denis turned out to be the most insightful. But yeah, just limitations in terms of where we were physically present, I guess.
Definitely. Your interview with Maëlys in the Saint-Denis region, that was probably, I think we all agree, the most insightful interview. That was really wonderful. And I will acknowledge too that you guys, when in an earlier version of your report talking about the Champions Park, that actually wasn't public knowledge at the time I first read it. The IOC hadn't released anything from what I remember. So that was quite cool. And it actually helped us in planning our exhibition because we acknowledged that we had to include that somewhere in the storyline of what we were going to tell. So we were able to jump the gun by a little bit, because even though we're in the IOC, we don't always find out everything in advance. We sometimes find out with the public, which you can imagine what that's like. I had another question, slightly more challenging, I think, in that we asked, what are Paris's unique approaches to the games? And I was wondering, while you were doing this, if you actually believe that Paris has a truly unique approach to these games, or if perhaps it's a little bit of advertising magic or publicity magic that they've done to make themselves seem like they're doing something different, but they're really not. It's okay, you can be open. We are the museum, so we're allowed to tell nuanced and different perspectives. But if you truly believe that this is a different version of the game.
Paul, I believe you want to address it? Or?
Yeah, but for the opening ceremony, that's for sure different. For the rest, I would say I would look after the games, what was the impact? But from my point of view, personally, I don't think there will be a very unique aspect to the games different to the other editions, except from the opening ceremony, the bigger one. But like for the women's marathon, that's another aspect that will be unique and probably will happen in the future for the men's marathon. But for the overall impact, I don't think there will be a big unique aspect to the games. That's my point. I don't know if the other have anything to say about it.
Maybe we could say it's unique in the context of the Summer Olympic Games, because I guess even with the opening ceremony taking place outside the stadium, that actually happened for the Junior Olympics in Buenos Aires. So yeah, if you're being really mean, you can say that's not purely unique, but they're innovating based on stuff that has happened in the past. Maybe the introduction of breaking is clearly unique. That's never happened before in the Olympic Games, and that could invite a new audience and help the Olympic Games appeal to a younger generation. And it'll be interesting to see if breaking also makes its way onto the calendar in LA. I don't know if that's been announced just yet. But otherwise, I think Paul's right. We have to see the impact of the games and sort of consider it after the facts to see if it's truly unique. The fact that everything is going to be happening throughout Paris, at least from my experience for London 2012, it felt like it was more or less limited to East London. So if you can see visible signs of the Olympic Games all over the city, then that would be perhaps another unique aspect. But to be like truly unique is quite a challenging feat. So let's wait and see.
Perfect. Thank you. I just have one more quick one and then I'll pass it off. It was just something that you had written in your report about the refugee team that will be going. And you'd mentioned something that there's some plans that perhaps they would meet with the local population. There would be food tasting. Did this come from an interview you did, or did this come from a public source?
So this is from interview that we had with Gonzalo Barrier from Olympic Refugee Foundation. And the main goal for refugee team is that this game will be really open for them. They have this chance to meet people, because like the first refugee team was in Rio, they were like limited athlete, and in Tokyo it was during the pandemic, so they didn't have this chance to meet people, their fans, and have this communication with them.
Mm-hmm.
So this is the goal for them, to be more in touch with people, their fans. And also Saint Denis itself is a very diverse, like there's like a lot of migrants there, so this is one of the goals, that have a chance for athletes to meet people, and there would be probably some festivals around that, but which is not yet confirmed. So this is the part of the plan that they want to have that.
Okay. Did you mention if there was anything like they would be in one area and the public was invited to come at specific times? Did he mention how exactly this would happen, or no?
He didn't exactly mention that how it will be happen, but there is a plan that they want to see if they can do that. Because for refugee team, many things still is not sure, because we have 60 non-athletes, but they have to still like training and be selected for Olympics. So they are like the budget and the main program is still not sure, but there is the plan that they would like to have.
Okay.
To let athletes really feel the games and be in, like, have this interact with their fans and local community.
Great. Now, this is great that you guys are able to get that information from him, so we can continue to follow along with him about how this is going to go, because it doesn't just impact this exhibition, but how do we talk about the refugee Olympic team in the whole museum? So it's interesting, and I hope it's not done in a way that's, I'll find the right word, but I hope it's done in a way that makes sense. It doesn't put people on display in a way you wouldn't otherwise. Anyways, I'm going to pass it on to Peya, and he can.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for this presentation and this good insights that you have been able to catch up from all the sources. It's a bit weird to be on this side of the table, to be fair, but I do understand that you've been doing a lot of work, and I would not be pushing too much. I just have a main question about more about the communication side of things, because you've been able to interview a lot of people with some projects that were not even public or with some sensitivity. How have you been able to understand all that they were saying? Because they have communication lines, they have talking points that they cannot go over what they want to say. But then how can you manage the information, cross-reference the information, and make sure that what you are reporting is effectively something that is going to happen or is true? That's the main thing. Well, what was they going to say true to you? And how did you manage to cross-check the references?
So for some of the information, it was already like public, or it was already somewhere published, so it was easy to check whenever they're giving out the truth or not. For other information, like for example about the plans with refugee teams or with Champions Park, it was not published. So actually, we were trusting them that they're not lying to us. And in any case, they were mentioning that it is the plan. And when we were starting the interviews, it was one of the obligations that we said that we will not publicate neither. So it's like kind of like off records. Of course, we were saying that we will share it with the Olympic Museum and with the university, because it's like within our project. But in any case, they could be safe that we will not say to anybody, because it was like part of our credibility. I don't see that students are coming to IOC and then like just saying everywhere, like on social media, okay, we got some news, and selling this information to the media. So I think it was a good moment of trust that our speakers, thanks to them, they could give to us. And from our point of view, it was like kind of business ethic not to go with this information anywhere. But yeah, you're right. If they wanted to lie, probably they could lie.
Okay.
But one more point, if I may add, like early stage of our project, we were very aligned with Olympic Museum. So we had the list of interviews that we want to interview, and they really supported us. So if we can interview someone else. So I think the connection that we had with Olympic Museum is also helped a lot to make sure like who we are interviewing, and we can really rely on the information that they are giving to us.
And they also were signing like an agreement of consent that they will not. Yes.
Complicated. Who's gonna find it?
So it was an official document signed.
Thank you.
Another question?
I'm good. Yeah, I believe we can turn maybe to our jury, who I'm sure has several questions as well. Daniel, over to you.
Okay, so thank you very much for your effort and for your presentation. I have quite a broad question that I would like you to answer with some evidence. It's a bit of a subjective question, but I would like you to provide some non-subjective answer. You have been working very hard on this project, so now you became expert on Olympic Games, I guess, after all these months. Do you think that the IOC will reach the stage with Paris Olympics of having the perfect games? Perfect games mean, to me, I can debate a lot on what is perfect. To me, perfect would mean that there is something for everyone in the world that can access to the game either on site or from a distant location through a mobile phone. You know, we know now that there are probably 4 billion users of mobile phone in the world. So it means, technically speaking, they can access to the game. So do you think that with Paris 2024, there is something for everyone, which means really reaching inclusivity? Inclusivity has many dimensions, but one dimension is that there is something for everyone with a mobile phone located in Thailand or in middle of Africa. Do you think Paris?
I'm glad I'm not on that.
During that, did you think that IOC will reach this stage of having this type of games? Because when I see this, I have the feeling that it's very impressive what they are doing in Paris. Even if you don't like the sport, you can watch the game and discover Paris, which is in a sense fantastic. It's a bit what they do with Tour de France. So do you think that Paris 2024 will be the perfect game, optimum? Nobody will do better.
I will start and probably Andrew will continue.
If not, what should they improve?
I would not say that this game, I'm sure that these games will be perfect, but I don't think that it will be, that all other games will not be as perfect as Paris. For these games, I think it's a good opportunity to reach to the young audience, because we have new sports like breaking, and not new sports, but also that I introduced like climbing, and they're reaching a new audience. And as for me, one of the goals that IOC has is to reach like the new audience and to make the audience that are watching Olympic Games younger. And by adding these new sports, it's one of the possibilities to do it. What about reaching like the more community, like not only in Paris? As you know, there are also parts of the games organized in Marseille with surfing. So it's not surfing, sailing. So it's also an opportunity to reach to the city that is really not like Paris, but it's other parts of France. And we have also surfing that is in Tahiti. So it's also reaching to communities that are very, very far, because like probably not people from Paris will not fly to Tahiti. So to the local communities that will come to see these games. So it's reaching people not only that are in the country but beyond. And also speaking about virtual marathon, it's a big opportunity to engage people. And actually they did already like a test virtual marathon. It was last year in 2022, and the results were great. They were like more than 50,000, I think, who participated. And it's for this kind of marathons, it's a big number. So they're already saying that it's like kind of pre-legacy of these games. But of course, for virtual marathon for the games, it will be even bigger. And like I will finish and then guys, you will continue. I think another thing that is super important is sustainability, because this goal is like, it's new for these games. And LA will not have this goal, so they will not cut their emissions. They will try to be carbon positive. So it's another thing. It will be like mostly done by offsetting. But here, this cutting emissions and the program that Paris has, it's only for Paris. So it's perfect.
Yeah, I agree with what Anna said. Thanks for the question, Daniel. But I think the short answer to the question is no. It's clearly not going to be the perfect games. The IOC hasn't reached that stage just yet. And one of the benefits of being online is I can quickly do some research whilst you're asking your question. I could see that Paris 2024 on Instagram only has 724,000 followers, and the IOC I think has something like 7 million. So it's questionable as to whether they have like a truly like global appeal, or whether they're still in that development phase, because clearly, they can increase those numbers. And I think one of their ambitions is to enhance their digital presence and build on the successes of the Winter Games in Beijing. But for sure, I think like the evolution process is positive because they're targeting the right areas, right? Because with these additional sports like surfing, breaking, skateboarding, and sport climbing, it's more probable that a kid might pick up the phone in Africa, for the sake of your example, and think, hey, this is really cool. I want to keep track of what's happening in the Olympic Games and stay like abreast of what it's doing. And I think it's already been announced as well that for 2028 in LA, they're going to introduce cricket. So that's a huge market in India with a local population of over 1 billion people, I think. So, I mean, they're clearly sort of edging towards that perfect games based on your definition in terms of reaching as many people as possible. And that's why they're looking for new young sports and more like established, sophisticated sports like cricket, because I assume in India, the IOC movement isn't as developed or popular as it would like to be. So it's going in the right direction, but it's not going to be perfect.
The perfect game will be when they organize them in Lausanne, I think. So
yeah.
Not sure which year, but it will come.
Good call, Anne.
On the lake with a new sport, which is walking on the lake like Jesus. What? Okay, thank you.
Any questions?
So thank you for the great work and very interesting questions and remarks as well. So I'm learning a lot of things here. Maybe more, I would say, down-to-earth question on the cost side of the games. So we try to keep the games not too expensive, right? But we understand that there are some effort to be done. I don't know what's the operating budget, 6 billion.
I can double check.
Yeah, say it's 6 billion now, which is 4.2. 4.2. Okay, so it's already smaller than the one, which is good. How much from the operating budget finance all that is happening around it? Do you have an idea if there are budget from the operating expense that are actually necessary to activate, enable all these beautiful things that will happen beside? The opening ceremony definitely is in the operating budget, right? It's a big amount, I guess. But the other things, are there in the operating budget, and what's their importance?
Actually, I don't know the numbers. I don't know if somebody of my team knows the exact figures.
No, I think that's perhaps outside of our scope for the project. I couldn't speak with any authority on what part of the budget's being dedicated to the opening ceremony. I imagine a significant chunk, because it's a huge operation. If you think about just like the security operation to make sure that everyone is safe during that opening ceremony, if it's happening along the Seine, you can think about the risk of terrorism. They'll be on high alert. I can't remember the exact facts, but like almost 50% of the whole police force in France will be moved to Paris for the Olympic Games. So the cost, if you just look at the opening ceremonies as standalone, is going to be material, but we don't have precise facts.
Okay, I understand it's not in the, of course, in the mission of the group and to look at the numbers, etc. But yeah, as a managers or future events organizer, you must keep also in mind the aspect of the cost of everything still. Of course, it can be the best games, but then we want it also balanced somehow for the future of the games. Thank you for this answer. More generally, what would be your recommendation to the Olympic Museum team of digging in, collecting this information that you could have as being, a group of students actually looking for this information and getting some trust from people you have discussed with? What would be your recommendation for next games to the Olympic Museum team?
For the exposition.
To create an expo, and where would be the focus, and what basically you would give as an idea?
In terms of main messaging, do you mean?
Yeah, messaging, of course, yeah.
So we had generally like 3 main points that we would love to focus on. It's this accessibility and inclusivity of the games. So like, as we said, it's games wide open, and it's very important to focus on it because it's the first time, more or less the first time IOC is bringing the games, local organizing committees bringing the games to all the citizens of Paris and the tourists who are coming. So you don't need to buy tickets. You will be in any case a part of the Olympic Games, and it's important. Another thing, it's sustainability and inclusivity, because again, these ambitious goals are for the first time, so we cannot just not mention them. And the third thing,
I think also gender equality, which is like the very important thing that is happening in Paris. And also somehow that still sport is somehow connected with politics, what is happening right now. So these are the 3 key takeaways that we had during this project.
And what's your answer to that? You agree, or you
Mostly, yes.
will miss one point? Or
No. The politics part is always difficult, as you can all imagine, because we are a communication tool of the IOC, even though we're allowed to have nuance. So sport and politics will always be quite difficult. But games wide open, I completely agree with. We need to show, it's our job to help the IOC tell people why the Paris Games are different, and games wide open sums that up. Gender equality will be a huge part of our narrative that we tell in the exhibition as well. And so that's really helpful because 1900 was the first time women competed in Paris. So it's this wonderful link between the two. And so overall, I agree. If we can mention all of them, probably not, but it is in our thinking. So yes, I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, that's quite clear. We just have to avoid some difficult issues that at the time are not still resolved. But you are right, that's the biggest things that are linked to the past and also to the future are the main things that we should have in this exhibition, and we're working towards that. So we're looking forward to welcome you when this exhibition will be open. There will be that.
Me telling you works in comms.
Please just visit us.
You'll be welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
Yeah, I was about to say, conscious of time.
I will ask them separately.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Then I propose we close here this final presentation of the morning. Dear group members, thank you very much. Megan, Pierre, thank you for your presence and the support along this journey to them. And we will then now break for lunch and reconvene for the next presentation at 2.